like a blank empty page. Put your dreams to the test. So start living, make a better way today. Only you can make that change and start winning. Let your imagination flow. Touch a life and change someone.
KBC Channel 1, Kenya's watching.
Everyone has a story, different lives and dreams, trying to make it through another day. Time to open up and share what we feel in the journey today. So start living, make a better way today. Only you can make that change and start winning. Let your imagination flow. Touch a life and change. See life where unajua ushapewa tumia. Furahia.
Furahia maisha.
Furahia.
Furahia maisha.
Furahia. Furahia.
Furahia maisha.
Furahia.
Yeah.
Furahia.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Touch Show. Today's show is on female genital mutilation. A lot of society still practice this uncouth practice, and we're trying our best to stomp it out. We are dedicating this show to people who are at the forefront of fighting against female genital mutilation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Touch Show.
Touch a life and change someone.
Female genital mutilation is a malpractice carried out in more than 3/4 of the country, although the prevalence rate of the practice varies widely from one ethnic group to another. Various lobby groups, non-governmental organizations have in the past mounted thorough campaigns against the retrogressive practice, and a notable reduction has been detected in the proportion amongst some communities. The vice, however, is currently still being performed amongst some communities, and among the reasons stated for its persistence is the need to observe customs and traditions, improve marriage prospect of the women, the wish to curb women's sexual desires, and the need to mark the passage from childhood to womanhood.
Sio kutahiriwa ndio inafanya mtu apate bwana au apate mtoto.
Wasichana wakitahiriwa wanaharibiwa mwili yao. Wakati ile walikuwa wanazaa wanapata taabu. Ndio tukaangalia tukaona hiyo ikiendelea namna hiyo watoto hawatasoma.
In its approach to curb the vice, the government has ratified various conventions and further provides for law courts to take action against perpetrators.
Once you cut a girl, then you stitch her. How do you expect her to give birth sure?
Touch a life and change someone.
In many cultures, most girls still undergo female genital mutilation. Some of them willingly, and some of them do not want to do it and are forced by their parents, who still believe it's a process that they have to undergo to prove their womanhood. Let's take a look at this.
Ever since she said no to female genital mutilation, Nashipai Christine has embraced her destiny of bringing change to the Maasai girl child.
Mimi ni msichana wa Kimasai nimezaliwa Masaini, nimelelewa Masaini na yote nimeajulia Masaini. Masomo pia nimesomea Masaini. Kuna tamaduni za kawaida huwa za makabila tofauti ambayo mimi niliyakataa binafsi. Mojawapo ni kupashwa tohara.
To her, the battle is no longer hers anymore.
Mimi nilipokataa waliona kama ni kitu ambayo sio ya kawaida. Wakaona kwamba kana kwamba sitaweza kusoma, sitamaliza shule.
She is distinct amid other clan members, a quality that has made her the envy of her age mates who fell a prey to the retrogressive malpractice. Her journey, however, has been a rocky one since she took her stand. With the help of her parents, she has learned to soldier on in life without looking back.
I couldn't sit at their company. I couldn't talk when they are talking because they are Maasai, most of them. And I came to realize myself after completing high school that that is not the only thing that will make a lady a real lady.
Determined to give back to the society what it gave her, Nashipai enjoys every second she spends with her pupils in class. With the changing attitudes amongst her tribesmen, she looks forward to getting married soon.
My first guest comes from a community that practices FGM. She was able to resist it, and thanks to education, maybe Christianity, and the support of her parents, she's now enjoying her life, and she's living as a Maasai girl. Many fear that maybe they will not be able to continue with their culture if they do not get mutilated. Welcome, Nashipai.
Thank you.
Please share with us your community practices with girls. What happens during FGM for Maasai girls?
During FGM, though I've not undergone the practice, but I get to hear it from my friends, and it's a sad story. It's painful when you sit down and listen to them. Surely it is not a good practice.
Mm-hmm.
You find them when they go through this practice, most of the times, or even after the practice, they are normally told that you are now a lady, meaning that you are now a woman. In translation to that, they mean that you are more or less the same with your mother. Whatever your mother does, you'll also do it. And that one makes them to do very weird things in the community, dropping out of school, even not listening to the elders, something like that, because of the just simple word that you are now a woman. Yeah.
When they share physically, what really happens during FGM in the Maasai community?
Actually, it depends when they share the story, because you find those who are interested with the FGM, they don't really talk to us as in how it was done. They always hide something, and they don't say everything. They say it's a nice practice, yeah, you get well, all sort of things. But to those who have come to realize that it is not a good practice, that's the time that they'll come, they'll say the truth. I have my role model, my elder sisters. They always tell me, Christine, this is bad, don't go through it.
So your sisters tell you walikeketwa na wanakuambia usikubali kukeketwa?
Ndio, walikeketwa, nao wenyewe waliniambia nisikubali kukeketwa. Yeah.
Wana watoto?
Ndio, nao watoto wameolewa, wanafanya kazi anywhere that all ladies are working.
Yeah. Other than the backache, kuna shida gani pia juu ya kukeketwa?
They normally talk about giving birth. There is prolonged bleeding when you're mutilated.
Okay. You bleed more when you're mutilated?
Yeah, because it's a wound.
How did the community view you when you said no to circumcision?
That was not the hard part, because it was back in 2000. I went to a certain home. I saw my friend who was being mutilated, and I was like, wow, it is like this. I never saw how it is done. Now when I saw that day,
Physically saw
yeah,
when it was happening.
I saw it. And the girl was very young. I went to my parents and I told them I'll not undergo it because it's this and that. I saw it. It's painful. I felt it myself. So let's just leave it. Let the community view us in whichever perspective that they will, but I'll not undergo it. And they're like, thank God we got you. You said that yourself because we were just waiting you to say it, because we are like afraid to tell you because of their friends that they are around you.
In your opinion, why is it important in Maasai culture for a girl to be mutilated?
First, you won't give birth when you're not mutilated. That's what they agree and that's what they believe.
So you're not allowed to get pregnant if you're not cut?
If you get pregnant,
Yeah.
you'll either get mutilated when even almost to get birth. Even if you're 9 months, you'll get mutilated. Whichever month that you are pregnant, when they realize that you're pregnant, not mutilated, they'll do it for you.
Why?
They believe that it's impossible for you to give birth when you are not mutilated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What's the other reason?
The other reason is you won't get a husband. Lucky enough to me, I'm just about to get married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm proud of that.
What's different about your husband?
He's a pure Maasai. Fun enough, he's not gone to school. He's a businessman. And they were those who had not gone to school. They are the ones who are at the front line trying to kick back this anti-FGM program. But to him, he never looked upon that, though the community told him, you're going to get married to a mutilated lady, that's bad, all that. And he's like, I'm seeing her as a lady, like the way my mother, who has given birth to me, she is. So there is no difference in that.
What sort of things do girls say, even girls and men say, about girls who are uncut?
Funny enough, in my place, men are now searching for ladies who are mutilated. In my place.
That's good.
And they're like, oh, we really did bad, but maji yaliyomwagika yazoleki. So we'll now try and prevent it for the next generation, for these young siblings of theirs. Yeah.
Now that you are uncut, and it's hard for you to be in the community, and it's obviously very emotional for you as well, what keeps you going and what keeps you focused on educating girls and telling them about FGM?
Most of those that underwent the practice, they are now back at home. They dropped out of school, and it's only a few of them who are still going on, pressing on to their destiny. But to us, we are only 3 in my place, and out of the 3, I have one friend. She's married. She has got 2 kids, and the thing that they were saying, you won't give birth. Funny enough, she's
Given birth.
yeah, she's given birth. She's married to a Maasai, and so there's nothing now that they can still
Say
about the unmutilated ladies.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's important for us to understand our rights, to be happy and to enjoy marriage. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we meet an advocate who's also fighting against FGM. Don't go anywhere.
Touch your life and change someone.
As Bisil town in the larger Kajiado division welcome a new day, residents are up and about tending to their day-to-day activities. In this region, female genital mutilation is widespread.
In Maasai land here now, particularly Bisil division and even Kajiado, in the neighborhood, it is the old people who are engaged in the act, particularly women, older women. So for them, there is nothing wrong with it. It's a cultural practice, and she has to do as per their culture. This old woman, she's not committing any wrong. But with the child rights and all the constitutional right of the child, she's violating the law.
With this in mind, 4 volunteers from this area embarked on a mission to not only stamp out the retrogressive practice, but to put an end to it.
Wakati wa likizo tunakusanya watoto kanisani in different locations, alafu tunaongelesha, tunafundisha mambo ubaya ya kukeketwa, ubaya kuolewa mapema, so tukawa discourage ili wasipitie hayo mambo.
Since its inception in the year 2006, many Maasai girls have found refuge from Tawanga.
Wale wamenyimwa kwenda shule, wale wanakimbia kuolewa mapema, wale wanakimbia kukeketwa, na wale pia ambao wamedhulumiwa waliingia katika ndoa ya mapema wakadhulumiwa pia wakaja, so wakawa wengi sana na ikawa mzigo sana kwetu.
In their endeavor to reach a wider scope of the region, this lobby group has had a rocky journey.
First of all, hatuna gari inaweza kimbia kwa emergency case. Inabidi tuingie deep down our pockets kutoa pesa ili tuhaye gari. Tuseme saa hii from Bisil to Torosei is about 100 kilometers from here. Na tunasikia mtoto anataka kuokolewa. Tunapiga kwa ndio our leaders like the district commissioner, our divisional officer wako very cooperative, but tuko na shida ya gari. Gari zile zinafanya katika ofisi hizo ni chache. Children office haina gari at all.
In spite of all the ups and downs they face, the group is still determined to work tirelessly to ensure a change of attitude amongst the residents.
Hello and welcome back. You're still watching Taj Show. Today's show is about female genital mutilation. With me now is Christine Ochieng. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
FGM Secretariat, what does it deal with?
Its main focus is mainly to coordinate and manage different stakeholders, that is government, civil society, religious leaders, and faith-based organizations, dealing with issues of campaigning for the abandonment of female genital mutilation in Kenya. And it was established in the year 2008.
Why is it important to involve religious leaders and civil societies to be able to reach to this, to stomp out FGM?
This is because the government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Gender, had undertaken a study in the year 2007, a national study on FGM programming within Kenya, and they realized that the issues of coordination and management of FGM was actually lacking, and that is what was hampering in terms of campaigning for the abandonment of FGM. And they realized that they needed to bring together all the stakeholders involved, be it from the government side, from the UN agency side, or the bilateral agencies that like GTZ, Norwegian Embassy, or also from the civil society angle and from the religious leaders. And it is because with the religious leaders, many Kenyans, majority of Kenyans belong to one faith or the other.
Yeah.
So, and they actually listen to their leaders within, be it the mosque or the church. So they would actually, we are working with them actually to talk to their congregation to abandon this particular practice, which is actually interfering with the human rights of both women and girls in Kenya. Yeah.
Why is this practice wrong?
Okay, first and foremost, the practice is wrong because it has no added value. It's a practice that actually first it causes pain and injury to the woman being subjected to the cut, because it's a cut to the genitalia, which takes quite a long time to heal, and this cut is done for non-medical reasons, which is it's actually very unnecessary. And then number two, it also interferes with development, both in the aspect of many girls who are cut. Research has revealed that many girls who are cut, actually, like for example, even within the Maasai community, the girls are made to get married because since it's what we call an alternative right, it's a rite of passage from girlhood to womanhood. They assume that this is a woman, she can get married, and sometimes they are cut as young as 12 years old, and that also happens within the Kuria community, within the Samburu community, and the fact that some of the girls who are cut also, they end up dropping out of school And FGM was one of the reasons pointed out to be the cause, because they drop out to get married, or they drop out because they feel like now they are adults and they cannot listen to their teachers. So it's really interfering. And as a whole, in the long run, it will interfere with even the women's participation in both developmental issues in Kenya, political participation, economic participation, whatsoever. Because if you don't go to school in the Kenya of today, it actually interferes with you quite a bit.
Does the child have a right to say no to this?
It's very clear within the Bill of Rights that a child should not be subjected to harmful traditional practices. It's very clear, and and the Constitution is a paramount law in Kenya. It even talks about not subjecting a youth to that particular harmful traditional practice, and FGM being one of them. So when we come down to the Children's Act, it also says the child has rights. And one of the key rights is that the child should not be subjected whatsoever to harmful traditional practices. And whether you are a parent or a guardian, it does not mean that you have to subject the child. The law does not permit you. This child too has their rights, and the child is also a human being.
So what steps should a child take in case they need to resist FGM?
One key step that a child ought to take, the child can actually report to their teachers, report to the gender officer or the children's officer, because those are people they interact with, and these are officials who are within, even if it's in a rural community or in a town setup, they are people who are accessible. They can actually report, and these officials, or even to the chief, and the child can also run away even to the church leaders, and if possible, even to the police, if the child is able to access the police, because the Children's Act outlaws FGM. And after that, the parent can actually be brought and actually be prosecuted for doing this particular practice. There's even a case in point. Last year, in April, in Narok, a father and a circumciser were jailed for 10 years because a girl had been subjected to FGM in, I believe, 2006, 2007, and the girl died, and the body was even exhumed because of the media highlighted this particular issue. And the parents, the father was jailed for 10 years, and this is a very important point. So any child should actually ought to report and say, no, I do not want this particular issue, I need to be rescued, I want to go on with my education, and I don't want someone to harm me, because I have a right to say no to female genital mutilation, irrespective of whether my parents believe in it or not. Yeah.
Is it just when it causes death, or can a parent be prosecuted just for practicing FGM?
When it causes death, of course, that one is now like a manslaughter or a murder case. But in the case in point, the one I'm talking about in Moyale, the child did not die. But the parents were still jailed for subjecting their children to the cat. You understand?
Yeah.
So so long as it's a cat, it's not supposed to be done. Yes.
Most women that still practice culturally FGM come from societies that women are submissive and are controlled, or the society is run by men who probably insist that the girls should do it. What would you advise them?
I would be very cautious to take such a stand, because some communities, the women, we can say, are submissive, but in some of them it's just the issue of the drive of, this is our culture, we have to practice this particular. And that's why some of them even bring their children from abroad to bring them back to Kenya to subject them to FGM, and those are people who are learned, who have actually lived abroad. So when you've lived abroad, we assume as Kenyans that you are someone who's actually exposed.
Surprising that doctors, knowing the effects that this could have on the girls, would do it.
Okay, a few of them, that's what the research said, that the medical providers, though they've been resistant, they've actually denied that particular issue. But the bottom line is that it's done by people in the medical field, the health providers, who actually know that this practice is it's not necessary, number one, because of the WHO definition that says it's done for non-medical reasons, number one. Number two, they know the effects. For example, when the women are going to give birth, like when you look at the type 3, the one we call infibulation, where it's the vaginal orifice is all sewed up apart from a small dot for dropping urine. They know very well that this is actually, the tissues are dead. It would affect when the woman is laboring and the smooth process of giving birth, but they still continue because of the issue of the fact that it's at the back of their minds. They are doing some justice to their culture to ensure that their culture is really maintained, but it's really unnecessary.
Finally, just explain to us where this is most prevalent and why.
Okay, according to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey of 2008-2009, it was released last year, the KDHS revealed that FGM right now is 27%, the prevalence in the whole of Kenya. But they say that in Northeastern Province, it's highly prevalent, it's about 97%. And it's also quite highly prevalent within the Mas-speaking community. That is the Samburu, the Maasai, and also Kisii and Kuria. But it's coming down within the Rift Valley, like the Kalenjin, it's coming down, but let's say the Marakwet, it's still, within the Marakwet, Mount Elgon, it's still prevalent. We've also been in the process of actually telling people that FGM is actually outlawed. We have a policy, and it's coming. Okay, people are listening to the information because of the fear of prosecution.
Yeah.
And we are hoping that we also have a bill which will be in Parliament soon. We are hoping that with the bill, if the bill is passed into law on FGM, that means that now FGM will be prohibited. And if you're caught and arrested, you'll actually be taken to jail. And when we get a few examples in different communities who've been sent to jail, like what happened in the Narok case, there's some kind of fear. That's why it continues going down. However, we have to be very cautious because there's also the issue of it being done privately. You might assume, so we also have to be cautious. That's why the campaign, we are continuing to do the campaign with different stakeholders to ensure that FGM is abandoned totally.
It should be like the case of abortion where, you know, if you ban it, you still risk the chances of people doing it in dodgier places and in riskier places.
Yeah, so we continue, it's work ongoing, and there are many different stakeholders in the FGM campaign, and all of them are important. Yeah, so that's what we are currently involved in doing.
All right, maybe we should start considering alternative rites of passage, because culture, as she said, is difficult to eradicate or to stomp out, because this is something people believe benefit them culturally. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with more. Don't go anywhere.
Touch a life and change someone. Touch a life and change someone.
Today we're talking about female genital mutilation, and one of the organizations that's most recognized in this country that fights for women and children's rights is Maendeleo ya Wanawake. With me now is Mrs. Okul, who is the National Treasurer for Maendeleo ya Wanawake. Karibu. Tell us a bit about your title and your job at Maendeleo ya Wanawake.
My name is Naomi Okul, National Treasurer, Maendeleo ya Wanawake. Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization is the largest women's organization in Africa, and it's selective. Women are elected from the grassroots level, and in Kenya we go as the government, yani tunaenda sambamba na serikali. From the elections, we do our elections from the sub-location level up to the national level. So you have to come from the sub-location up to the national level, to the district, from the district, the province, then the national level.
In that case, you mean that at every level that there's a government representative, there's a representative from Maendeleo ya Wanawake?
Yes.
So then it's that accessible?
It's very, very accessible.
What does Maendeleo ya Wanawake do?
Maendeleo ya Wanawake started in a very humble by bringing women together and helping each other. And it was Mabati women before it came to be called the Maendeleo ya Wanawake. Mabati women group, buying iron sheets for one mama to put up a house, those old days, from 1952. And it has come all the levels. At first it was regarded like as a local women organization, which has really maybe people who have no education or something like that. But now I want to tell Kenyans that this is the biggest and largest women organization which empowers women. It has empowered many. And even in Maendeleo, as I speak today, most of the women in parliament came through Maendeleo ya Wanawake.
Do you come from a culture that practices it?
Oh, yes. I come from Kisii community, and I went through when I was 9 years.
9? You were circumcised at the age of 9?
Yes, I was.
Tell us about...
That's why I can campaign against it very, very vigorously.
Passionately. Tell us about how the Abaguzi practices their circumcision and how dangerous that can be for a girl.
Well, I can speak about myself.
Yes.
And that's exactly the Abaguzi now. Of course, they go through from 9, even 8, 9, up to 12, up to 14. Me, I went as 9 years. I can say I didn't really know where I was going. I didn't know what was what it was.
You weren't asked? You weren't consulted?
I was so young to be asked to be consulted. I was only put up a bunch of 6 girls together, and we were told we are going to be good girls, and our aunties is to pinch us the whole night. If you don't cry, you don't scream, you are pinched. If you cry, then they laugh at you. They say you're a coward. So after the pinching, then at 5 in the morning, you're woken up, taken to the river, running, and you're given a cold shower there with your auntie after bathing you with cold water. Then you come and they make the cut. Nothing much. Then they see women singing, you are crying there, you are shivering there, the women are singing and enjoying and making.
How does this affect your marriage life, your personal life,
Yeah, it affects you very much. First of all, you bleed so much. I remember the bleeding was very much. I could hear them saying, bring this medicine, pour for her, do what. I think I passed out. By the time I was up again, I could see the women there, sugary carrying, whether they were sugar carrying, I can't know. But I will say it's very, very harmful. Number one, love making. Love making is very, very painful. So they have to use some oil. You have to use some oil, at least for to be comfortable a bit. Otherwise, it's very, very painful.
Throughout your life?
Yes. And then giving birth. Giving birth is a problem. They will always bring the scissors, cut you to make sure the baby comes out. It's not an operation, but it's a cutting exactly at the place. So it's just been easy for me, especially a mother of 4.
You're a mother of 4.
Yeah.
Considering the benefit of being considered part of the society, and being accepted as a girl who has gone under the rite of passage, is it worth it?
No, it's not worth it. It's not worthy at all. Because there's no much difference. I don't see the difference. The difference is that I'm going through pains. You have not gone. We are the same. There's nothing. I don't see why it's being done. As much as they're telling us it's a culture that honestly is outdated.
Yeah.
By now, it should be forgotten by everybody.
What advice
It doesn't help anything.
What advice do you have for young girls who would want to get...
For the young girls, do not pass through what I passed through. Do not go and do what was done to me. Don't accept it. It's painful, and you live painfully in your life.
We'll take a short break. We'll come back with more.
Touch your life and change someone. Touch your life and change someone.
Whereas some of us have come to terms with the fact that this should be stomped out, some people still don't understand why we should stop it. So we invited a professional who's going to tell us why this shouldn't happen and the dangers of practicing female genital mutilation. Welcome to Dr. Jaldesa.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
So tell us your full names and your profession.
My name is Dr. Guyo Jaldesa. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist teaching at the University of Nairobi as a senior lecturer.
Okay. Explain to us some of the dangers of female genital mutilation. We know there are different varieties. Tell us about them and the dangers of in terms of health.
Just to recap, female genital mutilation is defined by World Health Organization and other UN organizations as any injury to the female external genitalia for non-medical purpose, whether traditional, cultural, whatever the reason, so long as an injury or someone's part of the female genitalia is cut for non-medical reason, it constitutes female genital mutilation.
It's interesting that it's considered an injury. Why is it an injury, and what are the dangers of some of these injuries?
Okay, now, let me go back a bit. There are people who want to use the name female genital mutilation, but there are others who say that these people are doing this thing for cultural reasons. Back in their mind, they think that they are doing good for the children and the women in their communities. And therefore, when you call them mutilation, it is like you are not respecting the culture of those people, and they may revolt against the campaign or education. And therefore, they want to use the name female genital cutting. But the advocates, the activists, the World Health Organization and medical fraternity says removal of any healthy organ for non-medical reason constitutes nothing but mutilation. And whether we want to respect their culture or not, it is mutilation.
Called by any other name, it's still
It's still mutilation. Female genital mutilation is classified into 4 types. The first type is where the foreskin around the clitoris and probably the clitoris is removed. That is called type 1. This is basically practiced in the Nyanza province of Kenya among the Abagusi. Then there is type 2, whereby the clitoris and the foreskin around it is removed. The labia minora, part of it or all of it is removed. This is practiced in the majority of Kenya. All over the world, it's 85% of the people who practice FGM practice this type 2. So most of Rift Valley, most of central Kenya practice this type. Then the third type is where after cutting the labias, people go further and reduce the opening by stitching the vaginal orifice, the vaginal opening, and therefore narrowing the space. This is practiced mainly in northeastern parts of this country. So then there are the others which we call unclassified, which are different types, but any other thing that injury to the female genital organ that may not be part 1, 2, 3 constitutes 4. And this includes like pricking, the piercing, burning of using corrosive substances, or even hot metals are what constitutes type 4. These are not very common in Kenya, but it's still practiced.
What are the dangers of any of the above?
Okay, female genital mutilation is harmful practice. In that, number 1, in many of the communities that is practiced, is done under unhygienic situation. In a place where there is no sterilization, it's not environmentally clean for anyone to be cut. And therefore, with that, there is high chances of infection of the wound. It is done under no anesthesia. Therefore, you being cut in your private area raw when you are watching under no anesthesia with no pain relief is a very painful procedure. Every one of us have heard that there are girls who have bled to death as a result of FGM. So bleeding is a very common consequence because the nature had endowed the external genitalia with so much blood supply that when you are cutting these blood vessels, people tend to bleed a lot. And this bleeding sometimes leads to death. And I will ask people in the audience that if there is any single person who has not heard of girls, at least a girl who have been cut and died as a result of bleeding, they could raise their hand. But it's a common thing. But the unfortunate thing, those are some of the immediate complications. The unfortunate thing is that people see girls die, they go through the pain and the suffering, and it does not look like it attracts anybody's attention.
Yeah.
Now, other complications are that in the long term, FGM, sometimes African skin, especially this black skin of Africans, tend to have scars. And sometimes they form very ugly scar forming keloids. Or sometimes what medically called cyst, where that there's a huge swelling in the genitalia, which makes the place very ugly. It makes the place difficult, and it's uncomfortable to the bearer. And of course, around the time of menstruation, they tend to bleed so much. What I've not said is, at what age are these things practiced? If you go to some parts of this country, around the coastal area, it is done in the first week of life.
Yeah.
So that the girls don't even know that they were cut. Others do it as long as they wait until you are ready for delivery or the time of your marriage.
Do you know why they do this? Maybe at the time of marriage or at the time of delivery?
It is their way of, it's their culture. They don't actually, like the Abagusi, don't plan to do it at the time of delivery, but if somebody missed earlier on, or if somebody, probably someone married from outside another community who are not cutting, and you are married to that culture, and you come to deliver, then the one who's going to deliver cuts you then.
So why
But
is it?
by and large, it is done at around the age of 9, 10 in many communities,
Yeah.
or sometimes around the age of 14, 15, depending on which community you come from. And there are several reasons why they do it. It is initiation, passage of right from children to adults. The main reason, if you look within the societies that is practicing FGM, the main reason is actually subjugation of the women into a lower caste.
Yeah.
And therefore, it constitutes more of a human rights issue for the woman. Because the cut is extensive, the cut is to ensure that it's based on lots of myths.
To reduce sexual drive.
It's assumed that women are sexually crazy, they have no control, and therefore they are cut to control them,
Yeah.
which is not true. Truly, it's controlled from the head. So why do you want to cut the genitalia to control the sexuality of a woman?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
Because so long as the head is there and she has the desires, she will have the desire.
Have you ever experienced someone who went through female genital mutilation and developed a complication? Please tell us about it.
The complications we have talked about, the bleeding, the infections, the keloids, are almost day-to-day things that we see in the hospitals. The difficulties at giving birth. Unfortunately, the Maasai, for example, think that circumcision or FGM makes childbirth easy. Contrary to that, it makes childbirth more difficult. From a World Health Organization study which was done published some 4 years ago, which was done in many countries, including Kenya, it has shown that babies actually die more among the women who have undergone female genital mutilation compared to the women who have not gone through the cut. And the same way, around the time of birth, because of the scar, which is not elastic, unlike the natural skin, baby's head does not come out easily.
Yeah.
And most of the women who have undergone the cut, irrespective of the type of cut, they undergo lots of tears, which adds to the morbidity or the sickness of the woman at the time of delivery.
Is there a decent way then of doing it?
There is no decent way of doing female circumcision. It should be something which should be discouraged, abandoned. On 6th of February every year, the international community have a zero tolerance day. There is no single benefit whatsoever of female genital mutilation.
Well, you've heard from the doctor. There's so many more dangers and no benefits at all for female genital mutilation. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all we had time for today's show, but you have heard from my 4 guests. Nashipa shared her personal experience. She's a role model and should be to many Maasai girls and many communities who still practice FGM. You can say no, it's your right, because it's your right to enjoy your life. And also, Mrs. Okul added that you could be subjected to pain for the rest of your life, either in the process of lovemaking or delivering your children, and you can't deliver your children without having to undergo this unnecessary process. As Dr. Galdeso said, it is a health risk, and it's not value-adding at all. And Ms. Ochieng, Christine, said that it is wrong and the government does not allow it. You could easily be prosecuted for it. It's your right to say no. Girls and boys, help us in this campaign to say no to FGM. Until next Sunday, goodbye.
KBC Channel 1, Kenya's watching.